In the colourful town of Mbale, Uganda, Ayanda was celebrating her 33rd birthday. She was known as a kind, strong woman and had been married to Duma for 7 years. That evening, their home was filled with laughter, music, and the smell of delicious food. Friends and family gathered around, singing and dancing, showering Ayanda with love. Duma, her charming husband, stood up with a big smile and handed her a shiny gold-wrapped box. "To the woman I love," he said proudly, as the crowd clapped and cheered. Ayanda's eyes sparkled with joy as she took the gift. She smiled, feeling loved, lucky, and proud of the man beside her. Everyone around her believed they were the perfect couple, but deep inside that beautiful box wasn't a necklace or a sweet love letter. It held something so painful, so shocking, that it would change her life forever. As Ayanda held the box close to her heart, she had no idea that her entire world was about to fall apart. What she believed was a token of love was actually a silent betrayal, wrapped in gold paper and ribbon, waiting to break her heart into tiny pieces. Later that night, after the party was over and the guests had all gone home, Ayanda sat quietly in their bedroom. The gold-wrapped gift box still rested on her lap. The lights were dim, and outside the sounds of night insects filled the air. Ayanda smiled to herself, thinking maybe the box held a necklace, or maybe a heartfelt love letter from Duma. He had always been smooth with words. Slowly, with care, she untied the golden ribbon and peeled back the shiny wrapping paper. Inside, she saw an elegant card. It was thick, fancy, and smelled of expensive perfume. Curious, she opened it, still smiling, but her smile quickly faded. Her hands froze. Her heart dropped. Printed in shiny gold letters were the words, "You are invited to the wedding of Duma and Naledi. Date, Saturday. Location, Lake Mirembe Resort." At first she stared confused. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a joke. But as she read it again and again, her chest tightened. No, it was real. Her own husband, the man who had just kissed her in front of their friends, was marrying another woman. That weekend, only a few days away, she felt dizzy. The room seemed to spin. Her fingers trembled as she held the card. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. How could this be happening? Had he stopped loving her? When did he start lying? A million questions rushed through her head, but no answers came. She felt cold all over, as if someone had poured ice water down her spine. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She sat on the edge of the bed, stunned, frozen in silence, trying to understand the pain that was suddenly taking over her whole body. She thought of all their memories, their wedding day, the struggles they overcame, the promises he made. All of it now felt like a cruel joke. And while she sat there, heartbroken and confused, Duma was already sleeping peacefully on the other side of the bed, as if nothing was wrong, as if he hadn't just shattered the heart of the woman who had stood beside him for 7 years. Ayanda didn't wake him. She didn't scream or throw the card. She just stared at it quietly. That night, something inside her changed. The pain was deep, but behind it, a new fire began to grow. She knew one thing. She couldn't ignore this. She wouldn't let it break her completely. This wasn't just betrayal. It was war. And Ayanda, though still silent, was slowly becoming ready to fight back. Ayanda didn't shout. She didn't cry in front of Duma. She didn't ask questions. She just went silent. For 3 full days, she cooked his favourite meals, smiled when he walked into the room, and even thanked him again for the birthday gift. To anyone watching, she looked like a happy wife. But inside, her heart was on fire. Her mind was spinning, not with confusion anymore, but with a quiet, powerful anger. Every time she looked at Duma, pretending to love her, she felt a sharp pain, but she didn't show it. She knew that her silence was now her weapon. If she exploded too soon, he would cover his tracks. But if she stayed calm, she could find the truth and use it. She began her own investigation. Late at night, when Duma was asleep, Ayanda quietly picked up his phone, searched his drawers and looked through his laptop. She found deleted messages, secret bank transfers, and strange hotel bookings that didn't make sense. She took screenshots, saved files, and sent them to herself. Then she made a quiet phone call to her cousin in Kampala, an experienced lawyer who she trusted with her life. "I need help," she said simply. No need to explain everything. Her cousin understood. Together, they started collecting every piece of proof they could find. Fake business trips, photos with Naledi, money being secretly moved. It was all there. Every detail told the same story. Dumas wasn't just cheating. He had been building a whole second life, and he was doing it with Naledi. Ayanda felt like she was watching a movie, but the worst kind, one where the woman is betrayed by the man she trusted most. Still, she didn't cry. She didn't tell anyone, not even her closest friends. She stayed calm. She needed time. She needed to plan. Her face remained soft, but her heart had turned to steel. During dinner, she asked Dumas how work was, and he lied, again and again, without blinking. He had no idea she already knew the truth, that she had evidence, that she was watching his every move. Ayanda was no longer the same woman who had unwrapped a gold gift expecting love. She was now a woman preparing for war in silence. Her pain turned into focus. Her broken heart turned into a sharp mind. She realized that this wasn't just about her marriage. It was about her dignity, her truth, and her future. Dumas thought she would cry and beg, but Ayanda had something else in mind. She didn't want revenge with shouting. She wanted justice with proof. Every fake smile she gave him now was part of the trap she was setting, and it was working. While Dumas smiled to himself and planned his new life with another woman, Ayanda was busy planning something very different. He thought she would sit at home and cry, or maybe stay quiet forever. He had no idea the kind of woman he was dealing with. Ayanda wasn't weak. She wasn't broken. She was watching, thinking, and preparing something that would shake his world. She had already gathered enough proof to show the truth, but she wanted more. She wanted to understand the full story. Why Naledi? What did she know? Was she innocent or part of the lie? So, Ayanda took a quiet trip, not to a lawyer this time, but to Naledi's aunt, a kind woman Ayanda had once helped when she was sick and needed money for treatment. The woman still remembered Ayanda's kindness and welcomed her warmly. At first, Ayanda didn't say much. She just listened, and what she heard left her shocked. Naledi had no idea Dumas was married. He had told her that Ayanda had run away years ago. He said they were never officially married, just living together. He even told Naledi that Ayanda stole from him and vanished. Ayanda sat there quietly, nodding, her face calm. But inside, she was boiling. The lies were bigger than she thought. Dumas wasn't just cheating. He had destroyed her name to build a fake story. He had lied to everyone, including the woman he planned to marry. Ayanda realized then that this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about truth. It was about protecting her name, her dignity, and even saving another woman from walking into the same trap she once trusted. But Ayanda didn't rush. She didn't show her anger. She left the aunt's home with a smile, thanked her, and walked away with quiet strength. She already knew what she would do. She wouldn't scream in the streets. She wouldn't send the proof to the guests or warn Naledi privately. No, she would wait for the perfect moment, the wedding day, the day Dumas wanted to start his new life. That would be the day she would take off his mask in front of everyone, not just to embarrass him, but to show the world who he truly was. Ayanda kept moving in silence like a shadow. She had made up her mind. On the wedding day, she would not cry. She would not beg. She would walk into that ceremony like a storm, holding the truth in her hands. She was done being the quiet wife. She was now the woman Dumas had underestimated, and that was his biggest mistake. The sun was shining brightly over Lake Marembe, and the air was filled with the sound of music, laughter, and celebration. Guests dressed in bright, beautiful clothes were gathered under the shade of a large baobab tree. It was the perfect day for a wedding. Smiles were everywhere. Children ran around, women danced in colourful dresses, and everyone seemed happy. At the front stood Dumas, looking sharp in his suit, smiling like a man who had nothing to hide. Beside him stood Naledi, dressed like a queen in her stunning white gown, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers. Everyone was ready for the big moment, the vows. The pastor cleared his throat, ready to begin. But then, the atmosphere changed. From the back of the crowd, footsteps sounded on the gravel path. Slow, steady, sure. Heads turned, and there she was, Ayanda. She walked in calmly, wearing a simple dress and holding two things in her hands. The wedding invitation Duma had given her, and a small projector. People began to whisper. Some were confused. Others looked shocked. Ayanda didn't look angry. She didn't shout. She simply walked to the front, facing the crowd, her voice steady and clear. "I won't take much of your time," she said, holding up the invitation. "I just came to return this and show you a few things the groom forgot to mention." Before anyone could react, she placed the projector on a nearby table and turned it on. The screen lit up against a white cloth that had been placed for wedding photos. Everyone went silent. At first, there was just a still image. Duma and Ayanda on their wedding day, smiling and holding hands. A few people gasped. Others looked at Duma, who suddenly froze. His smile vanished. Naledi turned to him, confused. Then the audio began. A voice note played. Duma's voice, laughing, talking to a friend about how he was planning a second wedding without Ayanda finding out. Then came screen recordings, bank transfers to secret accounts, messages to Naledi while he told Ayanda he was on business trips. One after another, piece after piece, the puzzle was put together for everyone to see. Pictures of him in hotels with Naledi, text messages saying, "She doesn't matter anymore." A voice note saying, "Ayanda will never know. She's too loyal to suspect anything." Gasps filled the air. People covered their mouths. Some looked away in shame. Naledi stood completely still, her eyes wide, tears slowly forming. She turned to Duma, who now looked like a ghost, pale, silent, exposed. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. The microphone slipped from his hand. His legs trembled. He knew it was over. Ayanda stood there, strong and calm. She looked at Naledi, and their eyes met. It was not anger she showed. It was truth. It was power. Naledi looked down, her hands shaking, and without saying a word, she dropped the bouquet and walked away, slowly, painfully, still in her wedding dress. The crowd stayed silent. No one laughed anymore. No one danced. People began to leave, quietly, one by one. What was supposed to be the happiest day of Duma's life had turned into a public ending, a shameful display of truth he had tried so hard to hide. And in the middle of it all stood the woman he had tried to replace, the woman he had betrayed, Ayanda. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to fight. Her silence had been her strength. Her planning had been her power. She had walked into the wedding with nothing but the truth, and the truth was louder than any lie Duma had ever told. Before leaving, Ayanda turned back to look at him one last time. He stood there, empty, surrounded by decorations that no longer meant anything. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just walked away, with her head held high, leaving behind the lies, the pain, and the man who thought she would never find out. At that moment, Ayanda didn't just crash a wedding. She crashed a fantasy built on betrayal. She didn't just break Duma's mask. She shattered the entire story he had created. And the best part, she didn't do it with hate. She did it with calm, quiet courage. That day, Ayanda didn't just stop a wedding. She started something much bigger. A new chapter for herself. A chapter where she would no longer be the woman who was lied to, but the woman who stood up and told the truth. And the world would remember her for that. Duma's world fell apart right before his eyes. The wedding was over. The guests had left in silence. Naledi, heartbroken and ashamed, walked away in tears without saying a word. And Ayanda, she didn't stay to watch his pain. She had already moved past it, but she didn't stop there. Quietly, firmly, she filed for divorce. She didn't just leave the marriage. She made sure she left with everything she deserved. She sued for her share of the property and money, the things she had helped build during the 7 years of loyalty and sacrifice. And she won. Months later, Ayanda took that money and did something powerful. In the heart of Mbali, she opened a women's legal help center, a place where other women, abused, betrayed, and silenced could get help, advice, and support. It became a safe space for the voiceless. People started talking about her, first in Mbali, then all over Uganda, and soon across Africa. Her story spread like wildfire. She was the woman who stood tall in silence, the woman who exposed a lie with calm strength. They used to call her the wife with the wrong card. But now she was something greater. She was the woman who rewrote her ending and helped others do the same. A queen, not by crown, but by courage.